Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Ask Us Anything on the 29th of December 2020. This will be the last Ask Us Anything for this calendar year. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Ask Us Anything on the 20th. Apologize for that, a bit too keen with my phone. This will be the last Ask Us Anything for this year. So yeah, it's going to be a really quick one. We're going to be talking about the Escanner Portfolio from 3SHAPE. So let's get started then. So the main thing to understand, or part of the main thing to understand for today's Ask Us Anything, is to understand what 3SHAPE does. Okay, we will definitely talk about the Escanners and what that encompasses in a little bit. But one of the things to point out to all of our listeners is that 3SHAPE pretty much only does two main things. One is it produces scanning hardware. So it produces e-scanners like you can see over here. Just a second. So right here. So this is the e-scanner, right? So 3SHAPE produces e-scanner. These labs are used to digitize stone models for the dental laboratory. 3SHAPE also, as we all very well know, produces an intraoral scanner called the Trios. This is an image of the Trios 4 right now. This is the latest Trios scanner or intraoral scanner from 3SHAPE right now. Also, additionally, 3SHAPE has been sort of advertising and sort of alluding to the fact that sooner or later the X1 will be open to release. And I'm happy to announce that actually the X1 is now available in certain selected markets. And so Malaysia is definitely not one of them, so don't get too excited, everyone. But it's good to know that it's out there and that eventually it'll make its way down to Malaysia. So, as I said, 3SHAPE focuses on two main things. It focuses on scanners, so that's the hardware portion of 3SHAPE's business. And then it also focuses on CAD software. And so, arguably we could discuss this, but I feel that this is where actually 3SHAPE's main sort of pull, power, and status honestly comes from. It's what their software is capable of doing. So their software has been completely developed from the ground up for the dental market. It is not software that, at least recently, has been sort of redirected to a different digital workflow as some other companies out there right now. So 3SHAPE offers an integrated solution for labs. So what does that mean? So essentially, 3SHAPE focuses on the things it focuses on, i.e. scanning and CAD software. So in that sense, it offers a pretty big variety of e-scanners. You have the E1, E2, E3, E4, and then the D2000. These are 3SHAPE's current line of scanners. They have in the past produced D series scanners. So there was D900 scanners, D800 scanners, D700 scanners. And these were scanners where if you actually just do a quick Google search, you'll see that they're scanners with a door. So it was a door that you could lift up and down, and you would place your arch that you're scanning within the scanner and close the door. But now, as you can see with the e-scanners, it's completely open. It's just a little swivel there. So then, of course, with the other thing that 3SHAPE focuses on is software. So software in this sense so what I've listed here is actually restorative software. This is dental system software. So this is software with different configurations to give you the ability to design anything for the restorative workflow. So these different sort of headings, so complete restorative, premium, crown and bridge, removable, scan only, these are sort of workflows within the software suite. And it's broken down so that a lab that pretty much only does crown and bridge work can opt for the crown and bridge software, doesn't actually need complete restorative. Because, for example, complete restorative covers everything. So that would be removable, crown and bridge, premium, everything, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that 3SHAPE mainly focuses on. So I've included service here as well, because I think this is something important to actually talk about when it comes to 3SHAPE. They have two different service packages. So essentially this is subscriptions or subscription-less for 3SHAPE dental systems. So before all you Trios users get all excited, Subscription-less software is only available for the laboratory side. All software available on the clinical side has subscriptions attached to it. So sorry for that, guys. So 3SHAPE recently introduced the Red generation scanners. So what is the Red generation of scanners? Well, to give you a quick clue on just in case you haven't actually been bombarded with all the e-scanner marketing out there, is essentially the concept that Red generation scanners all have a circular ring at the back of the scanner as opposed to a silver ring, as you can see right here. So the concept for the Red generation scanners is that they are much prettier to look at, honestly, and also they're much faster. So all Red generation scanners are 20% faster than their current e-scanner range. So, you know, the e-scanners that have the silver ring that goes around the back. So essentially the way 3SHAPE explains it, or the way it sort of makes sense, honestly, is that they've brought E1, E2, and E3 to the same sort of platform, or the hardware platform, that is the E4. So the E4 was like the premium scanner that they launched, I think it was last year. And so what they've done is they've upgraded all of their scanners, their full range, to the Red generation of scanners. Something to take note is that, you know, oftentimes when sort of companies have an upgraded hardware or, you know, sort of software situations, prices are usually spiked, meaning they are much higher than perhaps the last generation. The good thing is this is not the case for the Red generation scanners. The Red generation scanners are priced at exactly the same price as the previous generation scanners, and they're only 20% faster. That is their selling point. I will say though that in the Malaysian market, Red scanners are not yet available. They will become available next year. But in terms of time savings, I can really say that I've not yet encountered a dental lab in Malaysia where the amount of laboratory scanning that they're doing actually makes sense for them to actually opt for a Red generation scanner. If you are a dental lab out there that has the previous generation e-scanners and you find that you cannot keep up with the amount of scanning that you have to do, yeah, feel free to get in touch with us. We can discuss if and when we can get you a Red scanner, or whether we can get you a second sort of e-scanner at a much cheaper rate, perhaps. Something like that. The last scanner that I want to sort of just shine a brief light on is actually the D2000. The D2000 is actually, as you can see, it's a door scanner. So it's harkening back to the time when they had the D scanners, so the D900, the D750, D600, and so on and so forth. And this scanner, even though it's, you could say, relatively ancient when it comes to technology, is still a beast. The fact that you can scan both an upper and lower arch at the same time, do it in color, additionally, you know, sort of scan in, dye in, so dye in within the model that you've sectioned, all in one. This is something that, you know, is still pretty astonishing, especially when you look at the scan speeds. You know, we're looking at 16 seconds for a full arch, 60 seconds for a full arch impression, because impression is quite a bit more difficult for the scanner to pick up, as it has to capture all the dark spots, the shadowed spots within the impression tray. So, you know, like undercuts and that sort of thing. So this is something else that is definitely available in Malaysia if you find that you have a need for it. So this is essentially what it boils down to. So Red generation e-scanners and the e-scanners, you could say just the e-scanners, this is the main differences, right? So if you had an E1 that wasn't Red generation and you had an E1 that was Red generation, this is the big difference that you're looking at, which is why I pointed out earlier that, in fact, if it is a matter of something that's important to you is speed, then definitely the Red generation is something to look into, invest in. Beyond that, in terms of the accuracy, the texture, and the scanning strategy, it's all the same. Yeah, so that's something important to keep note of. So let's actually just unpass this information here a little bit. So essentially what they're telling you here is that, or rather the more important bits that you probably need to focus on more is the accuracy, texture, and the scan strategy. Okay, so if you're in the market to purchase an Escanner, these are the things honestly that I would focus on, unless you are a very high volume lab, in which case what I would encourage you is to have a chat with us so we can sort of understand what is the best sort of package or best sort of scanner system for you. But anyway, so going forward, so accuracy. So you can see, generally speaking, down the road, the further up the tree you go, the more accurate the scans become. You're looking at 10 microns for the E1 and E2, 7 microns for the E3, and 4 microns for the E4. The D2000 still astonishingly is at 5 microns, even though it's a machine that's probably about 5 or 6 years old, if not older, in terms of the release date. So it's keeping up quite well, actually, I would say. So the next category. So before we continue, so it's important to note that generally speaking, if you are a dental lab that's looking to do sort of titanium bars, over dentures, anything that's going to be including sort of chroma work and things like that, or titanium on a large scale, I would definitely recommend quite strongly E3 or above. So either the E3 or E4, in my opinion, and also looking at some of the data available, is probably the better scanners for sort of titanium bar scanning and that sort of thing, or titanium bar production and that sort of thing, because the sort of accuracy you need to make those workflow work, it requires a whole different level. So some of the other differences within the Escanner range is the texture. So for example, in E1, it says the texture is not available. What that essentially means is that your model will be smooth. So, you will not pick up like some very, very minor details when it comes to, let me think of a good example for you. So all surfaces will be smoothened. They will not actually pick up different textures that are occurring on the surface. So I think a better analogy would be like if you were to use some sort of filter on your photo app on your phone. So, a lot of what the photo app actually does is it just smoothens out all the wrinkles and creases that we have on our skin. And that's sort of akin to what the E1 does. Yeah, it smoothens out those surfaces so that point A to point B is smooth, even though in reality it may not be. But given that it's scanning at 10 micron accuracy, it's not the craziest workflow or a craziest sort of software acrobatics that is being done. With the E2, it scans in black and white. And so, often the instant question that I get from a lot of our potential clients or clients in general is, what's the big difference between black and white and color? And what I can say is this sort of harkens back a bit more to the sort of traditional analog labs, or labs that are still in a process of sort of transitioning from analog workflow to a digital workflow. And on top of that, a further filter to attach to that is that it usually is only important for labs that are doing high volume. So that are doing high volume, because a lot of the times what happens is a single case is being passed between the hands of maybe 3 or 4 technicians, and it's very possible that they're all sort of using different colored markers and things like that, where color matters. It's like writing on the models, and that's something that the E3, E4 will pick up. The E2 will, of course, for the most part, pick up those writings as well, but it will be in black and white only, will not be in color. Additionally, another sort of situation I can think of is for dental labs, there's different grades and standards of stone. So if you actually want to understand what stone you've actually used for that model, maybe like in the future, few weeks, few months, few years down the road, just to check your work, I used the hardest stone, so this shouldn't be an issue, occlusion should not have suffered, that sort of thing. That would be one of the reasons why you want to actually differentiate between no texture, black and white, or color. Okay, of course there's all the others as well, faster speeds, better accuracy in scanning, and etc. And then finally, the last sort of filter you can attach to maybe an e-scanner purchase would be the scanning strategy. So once again, this is very much tied to whether you are a high volume lab or not, because some of the really sort of awesome features that you can use the E4 and the D2000 for is the die-in model and all-in-one scanning, which is pretty fantastic. So the concept is that you could actually have a stone model where you could still have the you've already sectioned the prep, so you have your dies for your crowns already sectioned and pinned. You could essentially just put them back like as if they were a normal model, and you could actually scan it. And the scanner would be able to pick up, it would actually separate the model from the die for your workflow. So if you are very short of time, or you have a large volume, this is something that is worth considering. And then of course the final sort of partition would be for the D2000. You can do both the upper and lower at the same time, while also having dies in the models if required. Moving on. Okay, so those are, you could say, the big differences between the I guess the Escanner series and the Red Generation scanner series. But in terms of what these e-scanners are capable of, what you can scan for, the bottom line is these scanners are capable of scanning for everything dental possible. So if you see a E1 to, well, E2, E1, E2, E3, E4, and so on and so forth, these are the same scanners that we'd use for orthodontics as well. This would be the same scanners that you would use to scan a patient's arch that requires an arch expander, that requires dentures. It's a sort of denture impression that you're scanning. It's endodontic crown impression you're scanning. You're scanning for subgingival crown or implant workflow. Essentially what I'm trying to say is these scanners are the same for whatever you require scanning in digital dentistry, whether it's on the restorative side or it's on the orthodontic side. Does not matter. They are essentially the same scanners that you're using. They might be sort of termed slightly different. So previously it used to be D2000, and if you got the orthodontic equivalent, it used to be R2000. Pretty straightforward there. Okay, so moving forward, I want to focus a little bit on what 3SHAPE additionally does, and sort of try to bring it all together into a summary that maybe you sort of understand. Okay, so for the digital lab equipment, the biggest parts that you need to worry about is the CAD and the CAM side. Okay, so here, as you can see, computer aided design is essentially just the software design here. But in order to design on the software, you need some sort of way to digitize your sort of analog sort of impressions. Then after you've digitized, you need something to design on. So this is where you use your software to design based on the impression you have, and then you send it off to manufacturing, whether it's 3D printing, let's say like a surgical guide, for example, or temporary teeth or dentures, for example, or it's milling out, your zirconia crowns, your zirconia bridges, your Emax crowns, your 3-unit Emax bridges, and so on and so forth. Okay, but the one thing to always remember is 3SHAPE pretty much focuses on only two things: scanners and software. Now, I say they focus on only these two things. That's quite right. But of course, with any sort of large company like 3Shape, they focus on a lot of other things. And some of that is actually making really good partnerships with all the big dental companies out there, whether it's to provide their dental labs or their clinicians with a denture workflow that is possible and available today with an integrated, validated workflow, or it's working with, open system partners where you have the ability to export production files and nest it into whatever machine requires. So whether it's 3D printing or milling machines, for example. Okay, so keep in mind, this is the only things that 3Shape focuses on, but it plays really well with others. Okay. One last thing additionally I would just quickly like to mention here is that with 3Shape Escanners, there's something that you can do that otherwise a lot of scanners out there probably can't do yet. I'm not too sure, honestly. But it's the concept that you can do some sort of hybridization to even further speed up your workflow. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of your dental labs out there are familiar with what this is. I think even clinicians will be familiar. Probably patients will be familiar as well. This is a stone model. So this is a stone model that's gone to a lab, and there's a prep zone going on here, and it's basically all been sectioned off, and this is where the sort of restoration is going to be made. Now, this still requires you to actually pour out the entire model. Now, 3Shape has a validated workflow that actually works like this. So imagine if sort of these units right here, this was the impression for it. You could literally just pour out this impression, or let's say if it was like a single unit, you could pretty much just pour out this single unit right here and get a die out of it. Once you have a die, you can actually then go ahead and scan your impression and your die and combine them. So when you scan your impression, it will actually scan the impression tray, create a reverse of that impression to give you a sort of digital model. So essentially digital stone, you could say, right? And that combined with a more accurate, like if you want to really get the maximum out of your impression and you really want to see those margin lines, you can actually just pour stone for that single unit. And that single unit combined with the impression tray scan reversed will give you the complete sort of master model that you require to design it. Okay, so let's actually add a little bit more complexity to this. So this is what a modern digital dental lab should be capable of doing. You have, of course, we cannot completely turn our backs on silicone impressions because the large majority, the absolute largest majority of Malaysia is still using silicone impressions or the analog impression system, right? But a digital system, whatever it may be, whether it's an e-scanner or an intraoral scanner, whatever it may be, it should still allow you to use it and still use sort of the traditional workflows. Okay, so basically this is just a straightforward workflow. So with an e-scanner, you can still scan your silicone impressions right here. Of course, if you're working with doctors that have an intraoral scanner, it makes life easier because they can directly communicate their intraoral scan over to you. So actually, in that sense, then you would completely skip this entire scan step. Directly from a digital impression, you would go directly to design. Now, so remember how I said 3Shape focuses on only these two things? So on the design side, 3Shape offers quite a lot of in-house clinical design softwares available as well. So, if you want to do implant planning, implant digital guides, you want to be doing clear aligners at some point, you want to be doing indirect bonding at some point, it offers the clinician in situ software capabilities, and ultimately, if you have the right production gear, to actually produce your own cases quite quickly, economically, and most importantly, with your check mark, as you will be the one subscribing or prescribing to the patient. You can also then, depending on whether you actually have design services or not within your laboratory, you can engage third-party design services to send the digital file that the doctor sent to you to go ahead and digitize. To go ahead and design for. Then they'll send you back the case, and you can produce. Or it works both ways. You can actually design a case, send it out to a third-party manufacturer, and then you finish up. But the concept is, this is what a modern digital dental lab in Malaysia, for the most part, should probably look like. Having the capabilities to digitize analog workflows, but also having the ability to receive directly digital cases from doctors. Okay. Now, the big difference is, as you can imagine, is if you have a digital first, so if you have a digital scan directly from the doctor, there should be no discrepancies, because 3SHAPE scanners, what you see is what you get. So there should be no discrepancies. Of course, you would really want to try and reduce as much as you can, if it's possible, depending on your market, your region of the country, reduce the number of stone models that you can take. Because if there's any errors in the stone model, you are just continuing the error. Your design is going to be continued on that error, and so on and so forth. And so now it really starts becoming quite important that the cases that you accept with good impressions. Because digital can do magic, but it cannot help you with a bad impression. So I highly encourage you to think about that. So then you go ahead and you manufacture. So you can go milling or printing, or once again send to third-party manufacturers. And then of course then the final step would be to glaze. This is assuming, of course, that some sort of ceramic. For temporary, you will not need to glaze, but you will need to finish, and so on and so forth. So just to round up a little bit, so this is what a fully digital dental lab, these are the benefits that you should be able to achieve. There will definitely be growing pains, there will definitely be struggles, definitely be difficulties, but the end goal is this entire column of benefits. This is ultimately what you are trying to achieve, what you're trying to get to. Okay? So let's just go quickly through them. Automatic archiving. So you scan a model, you can chuck it in the trash. Assuming that your network has been set up properly, you can have multiple backups of all of this information. So you will never lose the scan of the model. Allows you instantaneous communication, actually literally instantaneous communication with your dentist if they're actually sending you digital impressions via the triage scanner or another third-party scanner, etc. Okay. Now on the scanning side, you have much higher accuracy, because you are, if you're doing digital scanning or intraoral scanning, of course you have the much higher accuracy already. But even in terms of producing you could even say PFM crowns on digitally scanned models is going to be more accurate, because we're dealing with micron level accuracy that the human eye, the human fingers cannot attain. It's as simple as that. You will have low material usage, generally speaking, because you don't have to constantly pour out stone models, store stone models. Oh, this one broke, pour it out again, and so on and so forth. Okay. And of course you have the digital preparation. So sectioning digitally is possible, but if you're scanning, the interdental spaces are very small, it's definitely advised to actually section manually, and so on and so forth. But once again, it's really a matter of how you've actually set up your workflow. Okay, so if the doctor sends you a digital file, you download digitally, no problem. Now, for the design, of course, once again, you have the in-house software design workflows for the clinical side, or even if you are a clinic or a lab, for that matter, you can outsource your design. So if you're a laboratory that has the capability of doing casting, but you don't actually have the capability to design orthodontic appliances, or maybe the mesh, the chroma mesh, you have the ability to cast it, but you don't really want to use labor to actually do the wax up for that chroma work. That's sort of what they're sort of saying here. You can definitely engage design services that will cost a fraction of what your actual cost will be if you think about how long it takes, a technician by hand to actually build up the wax required for chroma work, for example. Of course, then if you actually open up yourself to design services and whatnot, you also have an opportunity to offer quite a lot of new indications and things that you otherwise wouldn't have, or would be too capital intensive for you to invest in directly. And then, of course, on the manufacturing side, ultimately, there are pretty much at the moment only two ways to be manufacturing dental products for a digital lab. And that is either through the milling process, whether that's milling of hybrid ceramics, or ceramics themselves, so lithium disilicate, anamic, emax, zirconia, lithium disilicate, emax, same thing. But so that's only one way, and that also includes titanium. Titanium milling by far is probably going to give you the best sort of bars and overdenture bars and things like that you require, the precision, the accuracy that you require. Okay, so that's still milling. And then of course now the new thing is 3D printing. So up till recently, 3D printing was pretty much consigned to the laboratory space, period. Meaning you would be 3D printing things that for the most part the laboratory would use, and a small exception to that would be surgical guides. But until recently, most clinicians did not really understand that actually 3D printing of dentures, 3D printing of temporary teeth is completely possible. But we've started to see quite a strong tide pushing forward, where 3D printing is now going to take a center stage in a lot of things. 3D printing of dentures, 3D printing of temporary teeth. Imagine 3D printing a denture that is good for 3 or 4 years, and then the patient pretty much just comes back, you reline the denture, scan it again, and you already have the design, you just reprint it. The occlusion is perfect, there's no adjustments needed. It's things like this that 3D printing is going to revolutionize in dentistry. And then of course, finally, there's always a finalization step for most dental products, because you definitely, whether it's a finishing, cleaning, QC, whatever it may be, there's always a finishing step involved. Okay, but this is what an ideal digital dental lab should be able to, or should encompass today, because all of these things are fully and completely available in Malaysia now. Okay, that was really mouthy, lot of words going on, but now we are going to end this situation, and we are going to end it with a couple of videos. So these are the capabilities that the e-scanners are capable of doing. These are some of the things we didn't get too deep into, because some apply to Malaysia, some may not apply to Malaysia. But anyway, here you go.
Hi everyone, my name is Mark Smith. I'm a product manager here at 3SHAPE, also a certified dental technician. So what I'll show you here today is the new generation Red e-scanners. In those scanners you have the option of scanning a full-size articulator in there, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. So I have articulator all set up. I have the preparations in these models, and I start placing them. With the E-series scanners, they have auto detection, meaning that every time I load a model into the scanner, remove my hand, it will start. So less clicking. Choose my area of interest and scan again. I already have my antagonist lined up. It's going to do a detailed scan of the prep, and then at the end of those scans, I'll show you how to place the articulator into the scanner with the accessories that you need for this. So the E4 is our fastest scanner in the E-series portfolio. So now I have this one post-processing. I'm going to take this away and place the next one. And then at the meantime, I'll start trimming my prep model. And I can actually start placing my models into the articulator. I'll remove my antagonist and get them in a registration. So with an articulator, let me just show you here. In your articulator, you have the option to enable the articulator holder. Articulator holder is this flat surface that you actually need to put into the scanner. So whenever I choose this, it will say, is the scanner empty? I will press yes, confirmed. And then it will go to the side, making it easy for me to place this. It has a magnet on one side, which I will place. So it's going to be fixed like this. And there's a circle in the articulator holder, which kind of indicates my area of interest. So I have my articulator placed. I have a corresponding rubber band. I twist it, place it so it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'll place it on the left side. Make sure that all the teeth are in the circle. Then I press next. No auto detection here, obviously, because it's not going to rotate with this sequence. So it's going to scan one side and then scan the other side, and then I need to align those, obviously, and then I'm good to go. So that was one side. And I'll take it out. Make sure the teeth are in the circle. Scan the right bite. You can actually see the area of interest that you're scanning with the multi-lines. Once this is enabled, then you can see which components they're scanning or which teeth they're scanning. So I'm scanning left side, scanning the right side now. Then I need to align. It will tell me again, is the scanner empty, because I need to remove the articulator holder and the articulator. I press OK, and it's going to home. So ready for the next case. I need to align it. One side, align the right side. Let's see. This one and this one. And scan the upper, line the upper. And the alignment results you see here, they're grayed out, looks super nice. And I'm ready to do my designs. So that's how you scan an articulator in an E-series scanner. Thank you for watching.
And so that was a quick little video sort of describing how you can combine an analog workflow or an analog workflow with accuracy, because it's not very often that you encounter articulators in Malaysia today. But if you do have a clinician or somebody sending you work requiring you to actually scan in an articulator, you can do so in 3SHAPE or in the 3SHAPE e-scanners. And of course, now the huge advantage within 3SHAPE software is they've got many of these industry leading articulators in a digital form within the software. So you can scan in the articulators or the articulated model, and you can actually indicate within the software which articulator you're using, and it will actually then throw up a digital analog for you of that particular articulator, for example, which I think is quite neat. I'm not aware of any other sort of scanners at the moment, at least, that can actually scan with articulator. I could be wrong. But yeah, so 3SHAPE's had this for the e-scanners and the scanner series for quite a long time now. Okay, now I'm actually going to throw up another video that is a copy denture workflow. Like how would, as a lab, could you do a copy denture workflow, and how could it be lucrative for you?
Hello everyone, my name is Mark Smith. I'm a product manager here at 3SHAPE, also a certified dental technician. So what I'll show you here today is the copy denture feature that we have. I'm going to be scanning on one of the new Generation Red E-series scanners with the corresponding PCs for that. I'm running a Dental System 2020, even though this was introduced, the copy denture was introduced in the 19.3 version. And a lot of the existing denture cases we have out there, 50 or 60% of them are basically copy dentures, right? So what is a copy denture? Basically, a copy denture is you scanning an existing denture with a realigner material and then you producing a new denture that fits even better for your patient. So I'll show you the scan workflow, how that works. If you want to go more into details how this works, then I encourage you to go on one of our training platforms to see more videos about this. So I've already set up the order and I'm ready to go. So top side, I sprayed it a little bit because if it's shiny, I'm not going to catch it, right? So I'll place it into the scanner, and then I have auto detection on this scanner, on all our e-scanners. So once I place an item in there, it's going to start scanning once I remove my hand, which makes it easier for me. So I have less clicking, it's more easy for me to interact with the scanner. So what it will do is it will scan the top side. I need to trim something away there, and then scan the other side. I'm going to flip it, scan the other side. I'll trim a little bit there, and then those two sides needs to be aligned. And then at the end of the day, I have the full denture inside, outside, and I can go to my design and start producing. So once it's done, it's lit up. I know I can take the denture out. I'm going to place it, ready to scan on the bottom side, placing it, and it will start scanning. While it's scanning, I'll go in and trim it. Trim away, a couple of clicks, and then I have it trimmed out. Something like this. Just gonna make sure I get all the material in. Checking how my bottom side is doing. And then that's basically all of my scanning is done right now. I'll do some trimming on this side also. Just flip it over. Really beautiful inside here. Close it up. Just checking my trim line. See if everything's fine. It seems to be okay. Then I'll go to my line step. Calculate a little bit here, just to make sure that the two sides are falling in place. Seems to be really good. So that was it for me. It's all aligned, ready to go. Now I've copied the denture and I'm good to go. Thank you for watching.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So that is a copy denture workflow. The workflow that a lab can follow to copy, dentures. Because if I'm not mistaken, these are definitely European and sort of American stats. But something like 60 to 65% of all dentures produced every year are replacements. They are not brand new dentures. They are somebody who just requires a brand new set of dentures done. And so if you can imagine, the copy denture workflow is absolutely perfect, because with the reline material, you can actually scan in the underneath with any changes that have occurred within the patient's arches. Okay, and so with that, that is the end of our Ask Us Anything. We have a couple of questions that we've actually collected over the last few weeks, and we've picked out a couple of questions that are actually pretty interesting, and questions that we get quite often, you could say, and something we'd probably just like to answer. All right. So the first question is the scanner workable with another CAD software? So the easy answer to that is yes. It is usable with other CAD software. Why? Because with the 3SHAPE e-scanners, you can have a workflow that is, so just a second, let me just back up a little bit for you guys. So right here, scan only. So basically a scan only e-scanner or desktop scanner from 3SHAPE, whether it is orthodontic, scan only scanner, or it's a dental system scan only scanner, you are able to scan. And once you have digitized, you are able to export in STL, PLY, DCM formats. And so yeah, you can use the you can use the excellent eScanner just for scanning capabilities. If you feel that you're using a third-party software, like for example Exocad or something, you can easily scan using the E-Series scanner, export the STL file, and then nest it into your Exocad workflow. Should be no problem. Yep. So in essence, 3Shape scanners are open system. You can use them for scanning and scanning only, and that's it. So yeah, possible. How user-friendly is the scanner? That is, you could say that's a good question. You need some sort of metric for measuring user friendliness, and I guess one of the quirky metrics that you could use is how many buttons does the machine have. The eScanner has one button. You turn it on. That's it. Beyond that, everything is either automatic or everything is controlled within the software. That's it. So how user-friendly? The scanner is extremely user-friendly. The calibration steps that you need to do periodically are pretty straightforward. Very, very straightforward, no problems. So they are very user-friendly. Okay, with that, we would like to thank everyone who has been watching our podcast earlier in the year, has been watching our Ask Us Anything the last few months. We'd like to thank you for supporting us and wishing you a fantastic New Year's, because let's pretend and forget 2020 and let's make 2021 a fantastic and prosperous year. With that, thank you and good night, everyone.